As unfortunate as it is, there are a growing number of people whose only media influence are television shows and movies. There are unfortunately zero media influences from elsewhere, like books. Books themselves are still a good industry and still going fairly strong, and they have updated themselves with time. I've replaced almost my entire library of novels with this e-reader, and I've replaced almost my entire library of reference manuals like RPG books with this tablet. I'm not going to say I don't have some physical copies, I do, but these two objects hold hundreds if not thousands of books that could be taking up shelf space. So books have definitely increased over time. So why am I telling you this? Why am I bringing up books when the title of this video is about the trope known as show don't tell? Because for people whose main media influence right now is things like TVs and movies, the show in Show Don't Tell, to them, relates more to a visual clue, being shown something visual, which doesn't translate as well into tabletop role-playing games. Show means to describe what's happening to the players or viewers, so that they can make the connections themselves, rather than to just say what is happening. Let me give you a little more of a example. If you say the Minotaur enters the room, and he's angry, that's not going to have as much of an impact. Okay, angry Minotaur, cool. But if you say the Minotaur stomps into the room, thrashing his axe around, veins bulging in his neck with his beady red eyes narrowing in your direction, you can probably guess he's angry, and that's not a good thing. But you never actually said he was angry. You showed it. You didn't tell it. But you didn't actually have to have any visual cues. Sure, you can make your body big if you're playing in person or you have a camera on, but you didn't need it to show and not tell. This lets the players, and possibly viewers if you're streaming it or something like I often do, this lets them make those connections themselves. Many studies have shown over time that the show don't tell means that the people that can make the connections themselves not only make a stronger connection with it and remember it better in the future, but are able to more vividly imagine it, which for a theater of the mind tabletop RPG type situation, that's kind of a big deal. Imagination's kind of a big thing when it comes to tabletop RPGs, just like they are in novels. Now, I mentioned books earlier for multiple reasons, not just the fact that it plays a lot more like RPGs as far as this show don't tell, but there's another key factor that TV shows and movies have that RPGs and books don't have, and that's a time limit. See, movies and TV shows have a very specific time limit. They have only so much time given. A movie's usually a couple of hours. A TV show might have only so many episodes, and so long per episode. RPGs, like novels, don't have these time limits. A novel can have any number of pages or any number of volumes. It's really up to the writer and how much they want to give her. An RPG is much the same. Your length of the play session can be how many sessions you have or however many you agree upon, as long as people actually show up and, you don't order 3 pizzas and make a whole bunch of snacks, clean the room top to bottom, and get everything completely set up to give them the most comfortable and awesome play experience possible when people just cancel on you last minute and you're just sitting there all alone crying in your room because no one actually showed up. But despite that, RPGs work a lot more like books for show don't tell. You don't have the time limits. Also, like books, tabletop RPGs tend to rely more on language to get the point across. The GM is often telling the story rather than showcasing it. Now, things have modified a little bit over time as we've gotten in the virtual tabletops. Visual media is easier to use than ever. Even before before the big great Panini, I was using virtual tabletops on like a big screen behind me or on a table or whatever and doing stuff like that. People have been doing it for a while. And even before that, I was making models and stuff. So you could really use some visual cues, but that's a small fraction. 99%, even to this day, with all the fancy toys that we have, 99% of what's going on is being described with language. And thus, once again, show don't tell works a lot more like books. So less on the visual cues and more on describing the effect not the cause. So it's not just a meteor hitting the ground. A streak of light going across the sky from somewhere beyond, plummeting to the ground in a flash of light, before a few moments later, the thunderous sound of an explosion washing over you. At no point did you say meteor. You just described what a meteor was. You described the effects without the cause. They make that connection in their mind. They describe it a little bit more. You used a few more descriptive sentences. And in general, it's going to stay with their mind a little bit better. Now, there's a few other points to make, such as dialogue is not a break on the show don't tell. If your players go to a scholar on the ancient elven kingdom and then ask him to describe something, that's not a break on show don't tell, because that is an action happening in the game. The scholar recites these histories. It's what was played out, and it was what was expected, so it's not that big of a deal. There's also another neat variant of show don't tell that you find from video games that also goes very well with RPGs, and that's play don't tell. If you want the players to learn about something happening in the past, maybe you could do a flashback sequence, or you could have them play it. Say they want to learn about the ancient castle ruins and how it fell into ruins, and the divine entity they commune with gives them this knowledge. But instead of just being like, bleh, here's the knowledge, here's your info dump, give them one-shot characters, little pre-generated characters that have nothing to do with their normal characters, and have them play out the fall of the castle. Now, this is a little bit more railroady than your general game should be, unless you're a very railroady GM, in which case, I mean, whatever, all the power to you. I can't play like that. But this is a little more railroady because you know roughly what the end result is going to be. How they get there, I mean, that's a collaboration between you and the players, but you know generally how it's going to end. The players get to make the fine details, have fun doing it, and the experience will likely stay with them a lot more than if you were to just tell them. So in this case, it's sort of a show don't tell. It's more of a play don't tell. Much the same thing, just a variant of it. And of course, with a lot of these types of videos that I'm making, I would like to remind you that anything I suggest here, like a trope being used, like show don't tell, is a tool. You don't always have to use the tool. You don't always have to use that tool. You don't even always have to use tools in general. You can go off script and do something entirely. Whatever is fun in that moment. But the tools are there if you need them. The tools are there to make your life easier, and they've been crafted over time for probably good reasons. So using them can make your life a lot better, make your games a little bit more enjoyable. So don't feel stuck using them. Just remember they're there if you need them, and maybe they can make your life a little bit easier. Tropes like these are comfortable because humans are pattern seekers. We want to look for things that are familiar, even if it's sometimes in an unfamiliar setting. So when we use certain story structures or certain tropes, something clicks within us because we recognize that pattern. All right, hope that helped a little bit. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that good shit. And as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and have a good one, eh?